Senator Passidomo is a longtime member of our club. There is a wonderful autobiography of her on her website. I encourage you all to read it. She's contributed so much to our community and to our state with her dedicated hard work. She is, as I said, the president of the Florida Senate. So we are so honored to have her here today.
Good afternoon. I'm so thrilled to be here, and I'm so thrilled to see this club expand so greatly. You know, when I joined maybe 20, 25 years ago, there's like 15 of us. So this is really, really amazing. One thing I wanted to mention, and I try to do this whenever I am speaking here locally, is that there's a good and bad for me being Senate president for the next 2 years. The good part is that I get basically to form the direction of the Florida legislature and some of the policies, some of the things that we do, funding, coming back to this district, I get to do. The bad part is that I have to do it in Tallahassee. And so I get calls from many of you for lunch or for dinner or to speak, and I'm just not here. And when I'm here, I try to get home on weekends, and you all know my dad reached his 100th birthday. So, yeah. Actually, I was going to bring him, but I'm not going out in the rain, he said. On weekends, I try to spend with him. So please bear with me for the next 2 years. I'll do a lot of good stuff for you. And, we'll have dinners and lunches 2 years from now. So a couple things I wanted to address. First of all, we have an amazing Republican, I call it a super duper majority in the Florida legislature. We have 28 out of 40 senators, and that's huge. That's huge. Also, the number of women legislators, Republican legislators, has increased exponentially. And we have women in leadership roles in the Senate. I'm Senate President. My Rules Chair, Debbie Mayfield, which is a really big committee. We have women, of course, chairing committees. We have a lieutenant governor who's a female. And for my organizational session, we reconnected with Toni Jennings, who was, I don't know if any of you have met her, she was the president of the Senate 20 years ago. And she's the only senator that ever served 2 consecutive 2-year terms. And she's a real role model, terrific. So there's a lot of us women influence in the Florida legislature in the past and today. I also want to say something about our governor. I didn't know him that well before I was designated as Senate President a year ago, October, not October of 22, but 21. Because you can only have one president at a time, and it wasn't fair for me to sort of start hanging around with the governor when there was a president there. So I spent a lot of time with him this summer in Fort Myers, Bonita, Naples, Sanibel, and I can tell you, I really like this guy. There's a lot of people that say things negative about him, that he's cold or. He really isn't. And I want to mention that to you because I'm really proud to serve with him and Speaker Paul Renner. We have a really good working relationship, and I think that's going to bode well for all of us in Florida. One of the things I wanted to mention, and it just shows that not only is he a really good guy, but he really does care. He's been to Southwest Florida almost once a week since Ian. And a number of occasions, I usually try to meet him if I'm not, doing something else here in Naples. A couple of times I've been in Tallahassee and I've flown with him. And when we fly over, it's the most poignant thing. He gets this kind of misty-eyed look, and he starts talking to his staff about, did we take care of so-and-so? And he has individual names that he was talking about. So, all that stuff you read about him, total bull, because he really does care about, on a human level, the citizens of Florida and of Southwest Florida. That's sort of an aside I wanted to mention so that you can pass that on to those who are always saying negative things. So I took over in right after the election. We had organizational session in November. And of course, the first thing that we had to address was Hurricane Ian and the challenges that we all faced. Many of you know that my house got inundated. I had 4 feet of water, as my neighbors did. But honestly, when I went to Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, and saw homes that had been lifted off their foundations and were in the water, where they lost everything, I can't complain. I only lost from here down. So we saved everything that, my suits that were hanging up, I saved the ones that were in the water with, whatever. So we had a special session to deal with Hurricane Ian, and we put in over $750 million for disaster relief for those of us in Southwest Florida. And of course, there was, over in Volusia County, they had issues as well. You've heard about our tax relief. So those of us whose homes have been uninhabitable will have an ad valorem tax reduction for the period that homes are uninhabitable. We put in some grant funding to help people with insurance deductible. We put in $150 million as part of the affordable housing initiative that I've undertaken to help temporary housing during this period when people can't get back in their homes. One of the things, and I remember this, I was on the plane with the governor, and I had been getting inundated with calls from people in Southwest Florida. We can't get a FEMA trailer. We need a trailer. We want to put a trailer on our property so we can fix it. And FEMA's response was, well, you're in a flood zone, and so we can't do that. And I'm like, and the reasoning is so stupid. We're not in hurricane season right now, and most of these trailers could be moved, and most of these people will get their work done by them. But the long and the short of it is the governor, we were talking about that with our emergency management director on the plane, and the governor says, I don't care, let's just buy them ourselves and put them out there. So we did. Yeah. And of course, we're very fortunate that the economy in our state has been so robust, and mostly with sales tax revenues have been growing exponentially. And I'll talk about the economy in a second. Talking about the affordable housing dollars that we put in for the hurricane relief is sort of a segue to my number one priority, and I've been talking about this for many years, is I don't even know what the word to use anymore, attainable housing for our workforce. And why is that important? Because I moved to Naples in 1979. And I remember going to county commission meetings and everybody's talking about the fact that we have no place for our workers to live. That was, 40 some odd years, 43 years ago. And we're still talking about it. We do one study after the other. Projects come, projects go, but there's never been a statewide concerted effort to address affordable housing. It is a crisis, it is critical, and we are going to do it. A bill is going to be filed within the next couple of weeks that is robust. And so just a little bit about it. One of the challenges and why we have a challenge with this attainable housing issue is because many people don't understand what we're trying to accomplish. When we talk about, we used to say workforce housing or affordable housing, you could see people's I could see it. People's minds would go into this blank zone, and I know what they're seeing. A CBS block building painted lime green with bars on the window, graffiti, and no landscaping, 14 cars where 2 cars should be, and drug addicts wandering around. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what will happen. What we need to do is look at who we need to serve. For example, a person who graduates from law school, now that's not a drug addict, well, hopefully not, who graduates from law school and gets a job working for the state attorney's office, makes $75,000 a year. They cannot live in Naples. Miami-Dade just asked their legislative delegation to give their starting salaries a $10,000 bump because there's no place to live. These are the kind of people. We've been looking at, last year we passed a hometown heroes bill where we put dollars in to help down payment assistance for our hometown heroes, who we defined as, the first responders and teachers and whatever. We need to expand that. We need to, as far as I'm concerned, anybody who's working in the state is a hero to me because they're providing services. So what our plan will be is looking at different things. We are going to create a class of individuals. We're calling them the missing middle, and that would be the state attorney making $75,000 or whatever. That person could not qualify for the Sadowski SHIP funds because he or she mainly nowadays, makes too much. So we have to take care of that missing middle. We have to help them. And I will tell you, the other thing that's in that bill, we are never, ever going to tell private businesses that you can't raise the rent, you have to do all kinds of things because this is private property rights. But if you come to the legislature or Florida Housing, which is going to handle all these funds that we're going to infuse in the system, if you come into the system and say, we'll put affordable units, we'll keep prices low, et cetera, then we will require them to keep the prices at a low, the rentals at a lower rate. And so we're talking about mixed income projects where you could have a market rate and affordable rate, and nobody knows who's who. That's the way it should be. We're going to encourage local governments to allow multifamily rentals, and rentals is what my focus is because honestly, that state attorney or that nurse or that firefighter, they're never going to be able to live in Naples. They can live way, way out, but even now I hear Golden Gate Estates, you can't buy a house for less than like $500,000. So we have to talk about rentals in nice, safe areas. So stay tuned. That's something that I'm fully committed to. The speaker is committed to it. The governor is committed to it. So we're going to move forward with that. Thank you. Secondly, I have a lot to say and not a lot of time to say it. Another one of my priorities is really fun. And that is, and the governor talked about it the other day because I keep hammering on it, the expansion of Florida's wildlife corridor. So I got involved in this when Carlton Ward, I don't know if you've heard of him, he's a very famous photographer who does, panthers is his big thing. He takes pictures of panthers. And he came to see me to tell me about this wildlife corridor, and it was like, it's a dream. So here's how it works. The state of Florida, the center of our state, is rural areas. A lot of it's economically disadvantaged, mostly farm fields, ranches, cattle ranches. A lot of it's still wild. And if you notice, and this is why I started getting really excited about this. When I moved to Naples in 1979, when I wanted to go to Miami, there was only one way to go. There's no I-75. You would take US 41. So when you would go over past Collier Boulevard, there was nothing until you got to Miami but I think there was like that Remuda Ranch, Clyde Butcher's house, Kraeling's concrete plant, nothing else but farm fields, tomatoes, winter vegetables. Now you cross over Collier Boulevard, and what do you have? One development after the other, which is fine. I mean, we're not telling people not to come here. But and the funny thing about those developments, you know how the big sign would say, condos from it used to say 250s, now it says condos from the 550s, close to beaches and shopping. And I'm like, I don't know what kind of beach they're going to, but it's really not that close. You know, and the challenge is all these new people that are coming in are wonderful, and most of them are Republicans, so we're happy. But they're drinking water, they're using resources, and we are in danger as our farmers are selling their land. There are two dangers to that. One, every time a farm field turns into a condo, we have more people, more traffic, and less vegetables. And our farmers in Florida have produced winter vegetables for the entire eastern seaboard for years. So here's what my concern. We lose this farm fields. What happens? We're going to be paying $20 for a tomato from Venezuela someday. And when we talk about dependence on foreign oil, think about dependence on foreign food. So, what the whole concept of the wildlife corridor is, how do we incentivize our farmers not to sell out to a developer, but to stay farming and ranching? We, the state of Florida, is putting millions and millions of dollars into buying their development rights. And it's a win-win. We're buying their rights. They can't sell to a developer, but they've got their cash for their family. They can put it in the stock market if it ever starts making money. And they can continue to ranch or farm in perpetuity. And if they want to sell, they can sell the land, but it can only be used for farming or ranching. So we will have this, we're buying millions. I think, I can't remember the total amount. I thought I wrote it down here, but I didn't. Millions of acres in the center of the state will be never developed. And I know some of you heard me say this. That's our Central Park. 50 years from now, they're not going to talk about anything we're doing, but they're going to talk about that because that will save our state. Now, here's the overlay. This is what I'm so excited about, because it wasn't my idea to do the corridor, but I have a really cool, I'm thinking, well, there's no public access to it because it's farmlands, ranch lands, there are no roads. So, it would just be sitting there forever. And I said, well, why don't we build a bike path? So we are passing legislation to put additional dollars to provide, and the Florida Department of Transportation is working with me and designing a bike path that could go from Naples to Orlando up the center of the state. Yeah, I know. And so, and one other thing, obviously I won't be here when it's done, I asked if they do motorized wheelchairs. So one other thing about it is, think about it that now the corridor now is home. The panthers they're roaming around, bears, all kinds of animals. It's going to be a very benign a path. There are no camping. We're not going to have food vendors or whatever, because what we want to encourage is people, if they're going to do this, to come in and out of those little towns that are up and down the center of the state. When you think about Wauchula and Fort Meade and when you guys go to Orlando, you take the center, you go up to 2017, and those towns are dying. And they shouldn't, because they're beautiful, and think about tourists could stop and bed and breakfast and all that. So anyway, that is my number 2 priority, and I'm really, really excited about it. We're going to do a lot of of legislation and policy on multiple areas that I don't have time to go into. But I am fully committed to continuing the progress we made with the Parents' Bill of Rights. I think we made huge strides. I firmly believe that parents should be in charge, and that we have to take back our school system. And you know, I talk to people that have been impacted in some of the stories, and you know, we have great teachers, so it's only a few, but those few have created a real problem. So we're going to continue with the legislation that we started with the Parents' Bill of Rights. One of the other things that we did address, and I forgot to mention, is our insurance issues. I'm sure all of you, like me, my insurance went up like 150% from last year, and then they didn't even cover my damage. But that's another story. So we know that there's been a real problem with assignment of benefits. You've all heard it. Some of the trial lawyers kind of ginning things up. So we had Speaker Renner and I called for a special session. We did a very, very robust bill, groundbreaking, that will help. And the problem, and there's a lot in it. I don't have time to go into it, but the way I look at it, it's fair. We took away the one-way attorney's fees. It doesn't make sense. We took away assignment of benefits, but we also are holding the insurer's feet to the fire. We're reducing the time for them to adjust a claim. You know, they have 90 days. That's way too long. I mean, if you got a house that got inundated and you have to wait 90 days for them to do it, your house is gone. The mold's everywhere because unless you've got cash to fix it. So we're holding everybody's feet to the fire. I'm told it's going to take a couple of years for the rates to start coming down. But I will tell you, if the insurance companies don't start taking the rates down, if there's a lot less claims, there will be hell to pay. and I believe that. The problem is that the claims from Ian, we could not address them in the bill because you could not do this retroactively. So there are thousands of claims coming in from Ian. So we'll see. So one of the other things that you should be probably pleased about is that we're continuing our school choice initiatives. And the speaker is working on a bill. Oh, thank you. I have my Marco Rubio moment here. Actually, you could have given me the beer. So you all don't know that, no, I won't. I can't. When I spoke to, the governor was in Fort Myers, and we all got up to say a few words. And I told him, I said, look, I don't need to say anything. They don't want to hear from me. They just want you. You know, you guys really, if the governor's here, you wouldn't care if you'd just say, go away to me. And it's okay, it's fine. So we're all standing there, and I'm like, what am I going to say? Because we had, like Byron was before me, or yeah. How am I going to compete with him? You know? So somebody handed me a beer and said, just talk. Remember how when the governor was drinking a beer, and he took his mask off, and the press, how stupid, said, oh, you took your mask off. And he's like, how am I going to drink a beer with a mask on? So I got up there and I raised the beer and I said, I've got a beer and I'm not wearing a mask. And everybody thought, I was like, I can't believe I said that. And here I am standing in my St. John's knit dress and high heels drinking a beer. So anyway, getting back to our school choice, the speaker has a really impactful bill that he's working on, dealing with vouchers and the like, that I think people will be really, really excited about. we're going to continue to celebrate our public school system, but we also need to recognize that we have a lot of good private schools and charter schools that also should be valued. One thing that we're working on also, not just workforce housing, but workforce development. There's a real need for workers. I bet everybody here who has a business is saying, I got to get back to work because there's nobody to do it because I'm here. Well, we're looking at apprenticeship programs and working with the school systems in high schools to get some of these students who do not plan on going to college to get their certifications and work for companies while they're in school, get their high school degree, get a job. And these are the kind of things, the common sense things that we need to do. Oh, it's 1 o'clock. Can I have another second? But last but not least, our economy is thriving. And we anticipate when we do the next revenue estimating conference in March that we will again exceed expectations. But I will tell you that I see on the horizon, and we're being told that this is not going to last. So we have to be fiscally responsible and conservative in our spending. It's amazing how much money people are asking for, entities are asking for. I have a list like this. And I want to prioritize what are important infrastructure things that will bring us into the next 20 years. One of the things that we're doing, and of those of you, maybe some nonprofits here, we're asking all the entities that are receiving state funding or that have been in the base budget, tell us what you do, because we are funding some organizations that nobody knows what they do. And they've just been in there for years. And we have to be fiscally responsible for that. So that's about it. I really, really enjoy this position as Senate President. And when people call me Madam President, please don't do that. Because I look around going, like this. But it's really, just as an aside, it's amazing. I learn so much. I hear so much. People come in, I put 2 and 2 together and make 22 because there's so many great ideas, so many great policies, a lot of things that we can do. And, I commit to you all that I will do my best to advance our conservative Republican policies in a fiscally responsible manner and in a common sense way. And so with that, thank you. And I'll come back maybe after session and tell you how it went.